I'm Ashley Bullington, and you're watching the fifth quarter. It's our Friday Night Raffle Show, where we bring you everything that happened around the greater Houston area for not only Texas high school football, but now high school basketball. It's been an exciting time, and as playoffs for high school football are coming to a close and a lot of games are being played Saturday, we also have some basketball scores. We're going to start with our football, though, obviously. A little bit of small school action tonight as Columbus played Hallettsville. Columbus is moving on to the next round. They won 48-25 over Hallettsville. We also had East Bernard, the Bremas, playing against Ganado. East Bernard wins 30-10. They are 14-0 on the season, and they will advance to the Division II semifinals for the second year in a row. And they're going to face the winner of Dangerfield or Pewitt, whoever wins that game. But let's get into some boys basketball now. Season starting out, a lot of these teams are playing in tournaments right now. We had some good ones. The Spring Creek Classic had several Houston teams up in Mansfield this week. But Shadow Creek played again tonight. They won their first two games in blowout fashion, but they lose to South Grand Prairie tonight, 63-71. Top performers in that game, though, are Will Young, and Will Young, who was on our recruiting trail today. Take a look at that one. It's really good. And Ramon Walker. Young had 26 points. Walker had 13. Down here in the Katy Classic, Morton Ranch played Cy Springs. Morton Ranch won that one 85-74. In the silver bracket for that, Cy Lakes won 56 over Katy Taylor 42. Jersey Village played Decaney, and Jersey Village won 65-63. For that Katy Classic, the gold bracket tomorrow has Morton Ranch playing Eisenhower and Klein Forest playing Seven Lakes to see who will take the championship of the Katy, or say who will take the champion of the gold bracket for the Katy Classic. Then in the silver bracket as well, who plays tomorrow, Cy Lakes plays Katy Paytow. Jersey Village plays Cy Creek for the silver bracket. A few more scores from around the greater Houston area. North Shore football plays tomorrow against Atascocita, but tonight North Shore basketball played Episcopal. They won 63-56 over Episcopal. And then Fort Bend Travis played George Ranch, and they won 73-60. In the Pearland Classic, Angleton took down Wheatley. So we saw a tweet that said that Angleton really fought for that win, and they earned it. So congrats on that. Great. It's great to be getting into basketball. We have a ton of big football games tomorrow, though. So we've got two change times. 9:30 a.m. will be the first episode, which will have some high school basketball in it, previews of games coming up, as well as this East Bernard and Columbus highlights. And then in the second episode, we will have all the action from Texas high school football that happened on Saturday. It's going to be really exciting, so tune into that at 11 p.m.
Don't forget to catch our extended coverage of the high school football season each week on The Warm-Up, presented by your local Houston area Geico agents. We will get you ready for all the action this Thursday on all our social media outlets. Watch Inside High School Sports to catch this week's Chevy Spotlight, brought to you by your Houston area Chevy dealers. Visit your nearest Chevy dealer to test drive their award-winning products.
Hey there, everyone. I'm Ash Bullington here with producer of Chevrolet's Inside High School Sports, Robert Sheik. And Robert, we have some exciting news for everyone.
What's that?
That we're on twice tomorrow.
I probably should have been on top of that. Yes, apparently I'm doing a second show tomorrow. Yes, two shows, 9:30 a.m. And then the big one at 11 p.m. one will have all the highlights from Saturday football action. So two fun shows. In the morning, we'll have the two Friday night games from tonight in Class 3A. And then Adam Coleman from the Houston Chronicle will join us to break down the Saturday action. And obviously there's a lot of good action on Saturday, so you'll want to catch that. We have some basketball highlights for you as well. And then Saturday night we'll do it all over again and be much more football centric with a lot of football highlights.
And I mean, Robert might not have got it at first, but he's excited for
Yes.
it. He's so excited. And we're all excited here at Inside High School Sports for that 11 p.m. time slot, which we will be moving to. But we didn't have much going on tonight. I got to talk about basketball scores in the first segment.
Well, we had 2 fun 3A games.
We did, yes, but we did have 2 fun 3A games. We can talk about those a little bit as East Bernard played Ganado,
yeah.
and Columbus played Hallettsville,
Yep.
and both won.
Yeah, absolutely. East Bernard, I guess we'll start there. You know, this program just continues to just roll on every single year, and you know that triple option offense is just dang near unstoppable. Devin Chapman with a big game tonight for the Brahmas, and jump out to a 30-10 halftime lead, and I believe that was the final. East Bernard looks like a state champion type team. You know, it's definitely setting up. I haven't checked the other statewide scores, but it looks like it could be setting up for East Bernard and Canadian, both ranked 1 and 2 in the state, and they seem to be on a collision course to meet at AT&T Stadium in a couple of weeks in the state championship. That would be a lot of fun.
I think it's cool that during the season we don't really get to cover these teams as much, but during playoffs we get to go out and get some of those small
Sure,
school games that we don't normally get on the show.
Yeah, no, absolutely. We always love, you know, getting new teams and getting different teams on the show, and yeah, like you mentioned, you know, East Bernard, we don't necessarily see a ton of during the regular season, just because we're so full with some great 5A and 6A action. But it's always fun getting down to those small schools in the small towns, and there's good football down there for sure. And we'll get into another player at that level here in a minute when we start talking about Columbus. But yeah, it's fun for us too to get to see some different teams. And it's funny because we say different team, but it seems like we see East Bernard at this round, this deep in the playoffs every single year. What a great job that program has done. 2 state championships, and Wade Bossy has been there for a little while now, and he has that thing like a well-oiled machine. And the crazy thing about this year's team, the quarterback, Dallas Nowitzki, is just a sophomore. So that program is definitely set up. You know, tradition never graduates, that old phrase, but you know, when you have a sophomore quarterback playing at this level, and we've seen East Bernard throw the ball a little bit more than perhaps in years past too, or at least it seems that way to me. So you know, when you have a quarterback that good at that level, that's a complete game changer and can really elevate you from one of those top tier programs to an elite level program, you know, that can win multiple state championships potentially.
Most definitely. And what about this?
Not that I'm just going to go ahead and call that. Or
I mean, we like to make bold predictions here, as in DFW, where we said that Highland Park was going to win last week. I'm still bitter about that. So we'll talk about Columbus now. What are we seeing from this team? They had a really good win last week. They have another really good win under their belts, where it doesn't seem like they have as much, I don't want to say as much competition, but they're winning well.
Oh, they're absolutely playing great. And, you know, this team, we'll start at the running back position. Tyree Simchick with a monster game tonight, 233 yards and 5 touchdowns. What a performance by him. I don't care what level you're playing at. The way he was dominating, the way he was breaking tackles, some of his touchdown runs, trust me, you're going to want to see these highlights.
Yes,
He could certainly play at a higher level than Class 3A. So don't roll your eyes and say, oh, okay, well, it's a lower level of competition or classification. No, this kid's a player for sure, and we've seen it a few weeks now. We've had Columbus on the show a few weeks now, and it just seems like the Cardinals just keep you can't slow down that offense. They just keep finding ways to score points. Quarterback is Brock Schobel, the son of former NFL player Aaron Schobel, who played for the Patriots, the Bills, I want to say. And yeah, that you know, Columbus may not have the traditional power name that we're used to in the Houston area like East Bernard, but this Cardinals team can certainly play. And you know, the Cardinals are in the state semifinals next week against Grandview from up outside of Fort Worth.
The Zebras.
Yeah, the Zebras.
The Zebras. I
Hopefully
do remember
the
that
Zebras
one.
won't be on the Zebras side.
So, I mean, we're talking about small schools and all that. It's cool, and you say like people might discredit those smaller schools, and you see that, but you don't understand the amount of work that goes into those smaller schools.
Absolutely.
You don't have as many kids to pick from. Like,
Yep.
you kind of are going with what you have, And when you can make it work, it's almost a bigger accomplishment.
Yeah, no,
I hate
no
to say
question.
that.
Yeah,
I don't want
no.
to take away anything from anybody else, but
Yeah.
to me, it's almost a bigger accomplishment to play against schools like that.
Absolutely, and especially for programs that don't necessarily have the tradition, it's almost even more remarkable because, that's one advantage that, especially at that level, a program like East Bernard has. When you go deep in the playoffs, all those younger players, the freshmen, the sophomores, those guys are getting extra practice reps for another month, 4, 5, 6 weeks. And that's invaluable when you start looking ahead to the next season and down the road, as those guys get that kind of experience playing, practicing against the varsity players and, spending time on the sidelines as those JV guys move up to varsity in the playoffs, and just spending time on the sidelines, learning the culture, seeing the way those guys handle themselves. And those guys, of course, learned it from the guys before, and that's where you really start to see, that's such a game changer, I think, at that level. And so if you're a program like Columbus that may not have gone that deep as much in recent years, to see the Cardinals doing that right now is to me, that's even more impressive. And hopefully Columbus will keep on rolling, and we'll see them at AT&T Stadium in a couple weeks, potentially in the 3A Division I state title game.
That would be exciting. So speaking of tradition-rich, we've got some tradition-rich programs. Wow, look at that
Yes.
spin right there.
Good-
We've got
good
some
segue.
tradition-rich programs playing tomorrow on Saturday. One being North Shore versus Atascocita. I am actually extremely excited for this game.
I think it's going to be a ton of fun.
Oh yeah.
Absolutely. These two teams, it's eerie, and we mentioned it on our Throwback Thursday this week. It's kind of eerily similar to 2016. North Shore avenged a loss to Katy, and then had to turn around. And at that time, North Shore and Atascocita were district rivals, if I recall correctly. But North Shore had to turn around and play Atascocita the very next week, and Atascocita pulled the upset and knocked off North Shore. And there's no reason to think Atascocita can't do that again. This Eagles team absolutely can. Outside of that one loss to Katy in week 2, Atascocita's been beating teams by 50, 60, 70 points every single week. And even in the playoffs, it's been 30, 40, 50-point wins. It's almost, I don't feel like Atascocita has gotten enough credit this season for being as dominant as it has been, because people will just say, well, they lost to Katy in week 2. Well, you know what? The Eagles are going to get their chance tomorrow to, show that maybe that game, that's not who Atascocita is. Atascocita is a team that played those other 12, 13 games or whatever. And if that team shows up, North Shore is going to have its hands full tomorrow for sure.
I'm excited to see how Atascocita's defense does against another strong offense.
Yeah, no question. It'll be interesting on both sides of the ball. We know Atascocita can score points with Bryce Matthews. Excuse me, I'm all over my tongue tonight, I guess. But yeah, we know Atascocita can score some points. How can anyone shut down this North Shore offense is a completely different question, and that's what Atascocita is going to have to figure out. We saw Katy. Katy was able to slow down North Shore early in the season. Westfield was able to slow down North Shore early in the season, but since then nobody has. And we saw, North Shore turn around and hang 56, I believe it was, on Katy last week. So, yeah, good luck to the Atascocita coaching staff trying to figure out how to slow down Demetrius Davis in that North Shore attack.
So another big game that we have on the docket is Manville versus Marshall, and their third meetup in the last 2 years. This is going to be an exciting showdown.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. These two teams, all they do is play fun, wild, unbelievably great games. And you want to see some speed on the field. You want to see some Division I level talent. You don't have to just be at the 6A level. This game, 5A Division II, is just unbelievable. The amount of speed on both teams. Of course, Fort Bend Marshall had the state championship track team last year, and
A national championship track team.
Yeah, and you know, a lot of those guys play football too. Devon Achane, of course, is foremost among them. What he brings to the table, that guy, you know, it's unfortunate, you know, you don't want to see that guy's career come to an end. You want to be able to watch a guy like that just play over and over year after year after year. You know,
to watch him at A&M next year.
At most, he has 3 games left in his high school career. You know, he gets one tomorrow, and we'll see. But that Manville team is really, really good. 2 years ago, the Mavs, of course, made it to state and lost at the last second in the last minute to Highland Park. Completely different roster, but it seems like the exact same team, even a completely different coaching staff, or at least the head coaching level. But what this Manville team has done this year is really impressive. It's so hard to beat a team as good as Marshall twice in one season. Mm-hmm. We'll see if the Mavs have that in them tomorrow, but yeah, definitely looking forward to that one for sure.
So a team that you have been very big on all season, but we haven't really gotten to talk about a ton is Westfield. And they play Dallas Jesuit, who kind of is the dark horse of Texas high school football playoffs.
Yeah.
With that really remarkable offense that they have behind E.J. Smith. But Westfield's one of those defenses that can almost shut anybody down.
Yeah, so this game is 6 o'clock at NRG Stadium. And E.J. Smith, if you're unaware, for the running back for Dallas Jesuit, is the son of NFL Hall of Famer Emmitt Smith.
Yes, he is.
So he has some good genetics, probably. And he caught a 95-yard touchdown last week against Klein Collins. So the Tigers, you know, got a little firsthand knowledge of just how good he is. Westfield, though, Klein Collins has a great defense, but I feel like Westfield this year, that Mustangs defense is even a step above. It's kind of at its own level. And as we just mentioned, Westfield held North Shore to 24 points earlier this season. That's the second lowest North Shore's been held to, it seems like, in probably 2 or 3 years, to be honest, but definitely this year. The difference with this Westfield team, Westfield always has a really good defense. It seems like the difference this year is that offense can put up points too. Ashton Callaway is a wide receiver to keep an eye on. He was a MVP bobblehead winner a few weeks ago, and this team just continues to just overly impress me every single week. It seems like you know, you don't think they can continue to beat teams the way that they are, and but the Mustangs do. They keep finding ways to just hammer teams and just physically dominate teams. And yeah, I would be surprised if Westfield doesn't take care of Dallas Jesuit tomorrow.
Oh, big predictions.
Yeah.
As somebody who does a lot of stuff with DFW as well, as long as that Westfield defense can shut down E.J. Smith, I think they have a very good chance.
Absolutely.
Because he's scored 11 touchdowns.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, if you take it out of E.J. Smith's hands, you're gonna do some good stuff.
Yep.
Another big team that actually went to state last year, Shadow Creek. They play Manor. Hey, Manor. They play Manor. If they can win this one, they kind of seem to have almost a clear path to make it back to the state championship.
Yeah, and let's look and see who would be awaiting Shadow Creek. It would be the winner of San Antonio Wagner and Corpus Christi Veterans Memorial, who actually played well, San Antonio Wagner's up 74-7, so we'll go ahead and call that a final. Yeah, so that would potentially set up a rematch from last year's state semifinals game, which Shadow Creek was trailing Wagner late in that ball game, if I remember correctly, and the Shadow Creek kind of pulled its rabbit out of the hat that we've seen a few times in the playoffs the last couple of years, with a big second half comeback. And yeah, that would certainly be an entertaining game. But this Shadow Creek team, you know, they get down 24-7 last week to Foster, and the Sharks just keep, you know,
they somehow pull it out of the hat.
They flip the switch, and that offense is just so good. The defense is so good. You know, again, Division I talent all over the field at all sorts of positions, and this team seems like it's been on a mission since whatever it was, December 22nd last year. It seems like it's been on a mission since December 23rd to get back to AT&T Stadium. Shadow Creek did not play its best game last year at the state championship, in the state championship game. The only loss of the season. You could tell, we were there. You could tell that loss really stung with that group. And so many of those guys are back on this year's team, both on the offensive and defensive side of the ball. And quarterback Kyron Jones was just a sophomore last year. He got forced into duty. He was the backup quarterback, got forced into action due to an injury to the starting quarterback at the time. And, you could tell he grew up getting that experience at Cowboys Stadium or AT&T Stadium. You could tell he grew up during that experience, and he put a little bit of a chip on his shoulder too, to know that he wanted to get back and get another opportunity. And that whole team really it seems like it's had that approach all season long, taking care of business, just destroying teams, breaking their will. And, after knocking out Foster last week, beating the Falcons for the second time this year, it's hard for me to see Shadow Creek losing. Potentially, obviously next week it would be San Antonio Wagner, and then, potentially a showdown with Frisco Lone Star, who's the top-ranked team in the state in Class 5A. So
I'm feeling some Shadow Creek mojo coming.
Yeah.
If I have to pick between the two, I might go Shadow Creek.
Yeah, but don't overlook Manor this week either. Manor's record, let me see if I can pull it up here, 8-5, but, it's those teams that get hot at the right time, and you never know, what kind of injuries or what kind of things teams battled early in the year. And but teams can catch fire, and this is when it matters the most. And as if we get into the 6A Division II game, we'll talk some more about that. But those records, what you did in the regular season, none of that stuff matters right now. All that matters is winning on Saturday, and that's what Shadow Creek has in front of it.
And that's why we have playoffs and not just two teams like NCAA get to go and play for the championship. So that other 6A Division II again that we were talking about, that you were talking about teams getting hot, Katy Taylor and Cy Creek.
Yeah.
Two teams that got hot at the right time.
Yeah, no, Cy Creek lost its first 3 games of the year. Nobody panicked, and the Cougars have kind of found their mojo and have won 9 out of the last 10. Katy Taylor lost the last 3 regular season games. Now those were 3 really tough regular season games to the other 3 teams that made the playoffs out of Katy ISD, which of course is Katy Tompkins, and Maid Creek. And no panic again from the Mustangs, and the Mustangs have kind of found their way in the postseason. And here you go, here you are. You're playing at NRG Stadium with a trip to the state semifinals on the line. Best run in school history for the Katy Taylor Mustangs, and it's been fun to watch. And we'll see. One of these 2 teams is going to play in the state semifinals next week. So, and that's definitely a thing for kids to remember next season and down the road. Just because you face a little adversity early in the season, you lose a couple games early in the season, it's not time to panic. Stay with it, and you never know what might be in store for you. And you look at Cy Creek and what Cy Creek and Katy Taylor have done in the postseason, and it's been a memorable season for both of those teams.
You don't have to be 16-0 to win a state championship.
Exactly. You absolutely
Moral
do
of
not.
the story.
You absolutely do not.
So, Robert, we've got some big games tomorrow. I know you have a ton of work to do. This is the hardest working man in here at the moment. So just to close things up, what are you most excited for tomorrow, besides your 11 p.m. show, obviously? But what are you most excited for tomorrow, and what do you what do you want to take away from the rest of the week now that we're going into the rest of the week?
I'm just really excited to see how these games play out. Especially that Marshall-Manville game, and keep your eye on Atascocita. Don't sleep on the Eagles.
Feeling.
Yeah, I would not be surprised in the least to see Atascocita pull that upset. But yeah, Manville-Marshall should be an absolute classic. And really all these games. I mean, again, just hats off to these kids and these coaches for all the work they've put in all season. And getting to this point is quite an accomplishment. Anytime you're playing into December, you've done something right. So congratulations to everyone, who's still playing for sure.
Awesome. Well, Robert, thank you for joining us, and thank you for watching the fifth quarter. Don't forget, tomorrow, Chevrolet's Inside High School Sports is on twice, once at 9:30 a.m., and then a whole other show at 11 p.m. Watch them. Be there. You want to. It's on KHU 11. But until next time, thank you for watching the fifth quarter.